Hi folks, Ryan Honeyman here from Lift Economy. Many folks have come to us over the last 10 years and asked, how do I get more involved in creating an economy that works for the benefit of all life? They also ask, what skills and experiences do I need to help make this transition? So 3 years ago, we created something called the Next Economy MBA to help address this and similar questions. Lift Economy's Next Economy MBA is an online course that's designed for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, students, recent graduates, employees, and folks who want to learn more about transformational next economy strategies and businesses. Join the growing alumni network of nearly 250 alumni who've gone through this program and learned essential skills and hopefully built lifelong relationships for catalyzing businesses in the emergent and regenerative economy. So we encourage you to check out our course. You can go to lifteconomy.com/MBA. The next course, Cohort 7, starts on September 21st, 2021. So once again, go to www.lifteconomy.com/MBA. And now, on with the show. Welcome to Next Economy Now. The goal of this podcast series is to highlight the leaders who are taking a regenerative, bioregional, equitable, democratic, racially just, and whole systems approach to creating the new economy.
Thank you, Arjan, for making time and space to join us today.
And thank you for having me on the podcast.
Definitely our pleasure. And I know a lot of the listeners will be really excited to learn more about Nature's Path. I know a little bit about the story, but I'm wondering if you could walk us back in time a little bit and then tell us how Nature's Path became what it is today as one of the leaders in the next economy.
So Nature's Path really started with a simple foundational value. My dad was born in 1944 on Vancouver Island, an idyllic sort of island off the west coast of Canada. And he grew up on an organic farm before the word organic even existed. My grandfather used to take him down to the beaches of Vancouver Island. Together, they would collect the kelp and the seaweed, and they brought it back to the farm and spread it between the rows, the strawberries and raspberries. And they always made, they grew the most delicious strawberries and raspberries. The farm was called Goldstream Berry Paradise. And he told my dad, and this is something that always stuck with him, he said, always leave the soil or the earth better than you found it. So that underlying value at Nature's Path is what we're all about. Nature's Path itself started in 1985 out of the back of a vegetarian restaurant. We started selling frozen manna bread, which was this most amazing bread based on an ancient biblical recipe. And as the business grew, we realized how no one was really doing something in the breakfast sphere to really bring organic, better for you, healthy foods to the marketplace. So in 1989, we made a big leap, my parents together, to start the first certified organic breakfast cereal plant and brand in North America, Nature's Path Foods. Today, we're really proud to sell to over 50 different countries. We have 3 manufacturing facilities in Canada and the U.S. And we're independent, family-owned food company. We like to say we're a company run by parents, not a parent company. So we take a lot of pride in being independent at a time when a lot of the major food companies have bought into the organic sphere and own a lot of the organic brands that we see on the shelf today. So we have about 150 different products and about 700 team members that are part of our team here.
It's really a fantastic story of growth and building off of a core value. I'm curious to learn more about the expression of that value in today's business, leaving the earth better than we found it, leaving the soil healthier than we found it. How does that play into how Nature's Path works with its suppliers and primary producers and how you think about it, and any stories about some of the suppliers that you work with that you care to share that might be interesting or inspiring to the Next Economy Now listeners?
The way it expresses itself, our philosophy around always leaving the soil better than we found it, means that we're means that we follow triple bottom line. It's not just about making profits, it's about the people and the planet as well. So we're really proud to work with a number of suppliers, family farmers, cooperatives across the world, actually, to get these delicious organic ingredients that we can convert into granolas and into cereals and into waffles and all sorts of different products. Actually, our first supplier, and is now our largest supplier, was really gracious to us when we first started off. We had no idea how to make cereal at the time. We bought all the equipment, the plant was trying to get running, and for the first 6 months, we couldn't make any cereal products. Just everything was going to waste. It was feeding all the organic dairy farmers all around British Columbia, Canada at the time. And, we were really struggling to stay afloat. My parents had mortgaged their house 6 times. I remember the time distinctly growing up, going out and helping out at the factory myself. And it was such a big struggle. And one of our suppliers, said, hey, I really believe in what you guys are doing. I believe in the future of organics. We're going to give you a loan for $250,000. And that loan was used to really help finance the business. And today we do close to $30 million of business a year with that one supplier. And they've been one of our most trusted suppliers. They believed in our vision, even though at the time we had no idea how to make the products. And subsequently we figured it out. And at the last possible moment, the cereal line started making delicious cornflakes, organic cornflakes. So that was one story where through their trust in us and the vision of having a better future, sustainable business model around organic foods, we were able to partner together. We're also really proud to partner with family farmers in Saskatchewan and Montana. Nature's Path owns close to 11,000 acres of farmland today, which is very different from a lot of other food manufacturers. They don't actually own farmland themselves. But we partnered up with existing family farmers, organic farmers, and a couple of them actually been able to bring their children back from the oil fields because it's a crop sharing arrangement where we bought the land next to their farms. They farm the entire property, and then they get 2/3 of the crop, and we get 1/3 of the crop. And it's been a very successful model for us. So these family farmers, it's been win-win for them and for us. And I guess it really speaks to the roots of the organic food movement, which is around being collaborative, cooperative, and for the planet.
There's even from humble beginnings and good partnerships and really excellent timing as well and commitment to your values, the company has really evolved into just a tremendous diversity of products in your supply chain. I mean, everything from coconut to quinoa to chia to buckwheat, and of course corn and everything else. So I'm kind of curious, how far does this supply chain reach? And then I have another question later about more about the extraordinary efforts you go to build high quality farmer relationships. But I'm just curious about the current footprint of your supply chain. It must be global.
We currently support 120,000 acres of organic production. That's working with family farmers, grain farmers in North America. We get nuts and fruits from California and places like Turkey. And we're sourcing from one of the best sugar producers in Brazil as well, organic cane sugar producers. So the supply chain is literally across the world. We try to source as much as we can locally, but we understand at the same time that not everything can be grown just within North America, especially as it comes to these new and innovative ingredients we like to experiment with and pioneer sort of new health food trends. And back in the 90s, that was flax seeds. And then, about 4 or 5 years ago, it was chia seeds. And we have a lot of new and exciting sort of things and ingredients that we're coming out with. And as I talk to our supply chain team, whenever we come up with a new innovative idea, they're always kind of scratching their head at first, like, oh, how are we going to source this ingredient? But through our reputation of paying on time, working with farmers, and really just, being true and authentic to the organic food movement, we've been able to overcome a lot of the challenges and make sure that we're 100% organic and non-GMO. We don't dabble in organics. It's true to what we believe in, and it's true to our ethos of always leaving the earth better than we found it.
And this non-dabbling, there's definitely a double down kind of commitment that Nature's Path has made, even in terms of, I'd say, enterprise or corporate activism over the years, and giving back. And I want to hear more about that in a second. But I think our listeners, it might be worth kind of highlighting the rarity, not necessarily uniqueness, but the rarity of your operation. Not only do you own farmland, you actually do the manufacturing. So many of the companies in the organic food movement are more brands that outsource both their manufacturing and, of course, are not involved in primary production at all in terms of land tenure. Can you talk about how that is either challenging or beneficial to the overall operation of the business?
Making our own products has been a boon for us because we've been able to do things differently than everyone else. Because we didn't know how to make cereal when we first got into the cereal business, we kind of had to struggle through it, and eventually we developed our own unique processes and ways of making sure that the flake stays extra crunchy in milk. So if we had just gone to a co-packer and said, "Oh yeah, can you make this product for us?" They would have made the product for us, but then it would have been like everyone else, except that it would have been organic. So by producing ourselves, investing in our own equipment and our own processes, it's been able for us to be very competitive and offer a differentiated product. So it's not just a brand. Nature's Path brand stands for high quality, authenticity around organics, but then the product inside also has to really speak to taste and deliciousness, and then the added benefits of sustainability. So it is definitely more of a challenge to go the route that we did, but I think as a result, we've been rewarded in the marketplace to have high quality products, and being able to have control over the processing from the farm level, working with millers, and then getting the grains and fruits and nuts to our facilities to blend them and come up with the most delicious combinations has been really a point of differentiation for Nature's Path. And one that I kind of hinted about earlier, which was the biggest challenge that we faced, was just actually staying in business early on because we didn't know how to make cereal. And at the last possible moment, we started making cereal. A funny story I'll just quickly share with you is that when we had the grand opening of our first facility, we invited all the suits to come visit the factory. The premier of our province, the mayor of the local town that we were operating in, and the bankers and other folks from the community. But we couldn't actually make the product because we were having all these production challenges. So we went to the store shelves and we got some cornflakes. We bought them off the shelf and sprinkled them on the line to make it look like we were actually making product, because at the time we couldn't. So within the next 2 months after that grand opening, we were able to produce the product. But it was kind of like fake it till you make it. And then we're very fortunate to have started making product at that particular point. Otherwise, the business wouldn't have existed today. It would have gone bankrupt.
It's a great story, and it speaks to the perseverance and creativity of true entrepreneurs taking that risk and pursuing their values to manifest something wonderful in the world, and maintaining that independence and being family owned. I think there's a few companies, and it's just a handful, but in the next economy that are really kind of wearing their values and proudly and expressing them even in what some people might call activist ways, promoting standards, taking a stand for their employees, and giving back. And Nature's Path has done a number of different projects over the years involved in the GMO labeling, as an example, and different propositions in different places. I'm wondering if you can maybe walk us through a highlight that some of our listeners might not know about some of the courageous choices you have made to take a stand for your values as a company.
Sure, Kevin, because we're not beholden to Wall Street or quarterly results, where we have to really make sure that the profits are there every single quarter. We're able to take a more longer view approach. And if we stand up for organics, we're willing to put our money and our efforts and our passion behind it. So the non-GMO labeling fight was a big one for us that we were part of. We were part of the steering committee for the labeling initiative in California, and we actively contributed to Washington State and Oregon for people's right to know what's in their food. That's one of the biggest things that we don't have right now is a right to know what's in our food as it relates to genetically modified ingredients. And we at Nature's Path believe that everyone should have this democratic right. So we've donated close to $1.5 million to non-GMO labeling initiatives. And at the time, somebody came up to us and said, "Hey, are you guys an activist are you guys activists? Or are you like a company, for profit?" And we said, "We're both. We're, that's core to who we are." Unlike major food companies that fought this transparency, we were able to stand up and wave the flag for transparency and say, "Hey, we believe that this is the right way and the most transparent way to share how food is grown, and people can make their own informed decision after that." So one cool movie that we helped sponsor is GMO OMG. It's available on Netflix. Your listeners can definitely check that out. And that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg for us in terms of activism. We want to have all kids become activists in the sense of knowing where the food's coming from and supporting and protecting endangered species and animals. So we launched the first certified organic breakfast cereal line for kids called EnviroKids. And we donate 1% of all sales towards endangered species protection, habitat conservation, education for kids. And to date, we've given over $3 million to different organizations like Diane Fossey Gorilla Foundation or the Lemur Conservation Group in Madagascar. And one of the most heartening letters I've ever received is a letter from a young woman. And she said, "I'm studying primatology, and I'm studying it because I read on the back of your Gorilla Munch how to become an EnviroKids. And I did bake sales, and I raised money to adopt gorillas growing up. And today I'm studying primatology because I learned about how there are only 500 mountain gorillas left in the world, and I wanted to do my part to save them." And it's not just about us sort of sharing and giving, but it's about inspiring others. And I think that EnviroKids example is one is poignant for me because it really highlights how people, through interacting with the product, through eating breakfast, can really help change the world. And that's our goal, is to transform the way that food is grown, eaten, marketed, sold, through having healthier organic options that are transparent around GMO labeling, and that we all can make a difference when we sit down at our breakfast table or at a dinner table with the choices that we make.
Really, really wonderful story. Again, there's a lot more that Nature's Path has done in terms of caring for people through kind of corporate philanthropy or giving, even food giving. I'm wondering if you can highlight some of the work that Nature's Path has done in terms of contributing food to those in need and other such programs.
When I got married 7 years ago, and my wife and I, when we got married, we launched what we called the Experience Giving Project. So we asked all of our guests to give a gift of giving in lieu of traditional wedding gifts. So they all went out into the local communities, and some volunteered at food banks, and others volunteered with different organizations, like helping get people off the streets for interviews for jobs. And one of our guests went to a train station in Germany and handed out tulips in an economically depressed area. So we were so inspired by all these stories at our wedding. And my wife and I created this product called Love Crunch. And we gave it out to all our guests and combined the most delicious ingredients that we that we loved, chocolate and coconut and raspberries and granola. And we also gave it out to some of our customers. So at the time, we weren't planning on selling it right away. And a couple of our guests and our customers came out and said, no, you got to sell this. This is really cool. So in the spirit of that, we started selling Love Crunch. And when we first launched it, we tied it into microfinance giving, because when we gave it was about love, and our love for each other, and our love for our guests, and our love for the world. And so we supported women entrepreneurs to start their own business in the developing world with $1 off going to this charity through Whole Foods markets, and we were able to support these women entrepreneurs. And then afterwards, we launched it across the entire market, and we said, we're going to do a bite for bite program. So for every bag of Love Crunch sold, we're going to donate an equivalent amount to food banks across North America, keeping in with that spirit of what our guests gave us at our wedding. And today, we're proud to give close to $2 million every year in cash and food, organic cash and food, to food banks across North America. I volunteered at food banks when I was a university student at our campus, and you get to see how much junk food is at these places, and how people with the least amount of money and income have the worst access to food. So we wanted to make sure that organic food gets out to more people, and that's another one of the initiatives that I'm most proud of, because it comes out of my wedding, where we're able to launch Love Crunch, and then have this giving back component where we're able to support these people in economically depressed areas.
Thanks for sharing about what you're doing in that type of giving. And I know that's somewhat of the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of other programs that you've initiated over the years. I'm curious also to hear about, and I know our listeners are excited about, you've consistently been ranked as one of the best places to work. And I'm curious about if you could just share some of the things that Nature's Path does as a company in consideration of your workers, and creating a workplace and an environment that's beneficial.
We call our workers, our employees at Nature's Path valued team members, because that's exactly sort of the framework at which we look at our Nature's Path extended family. Our valued team members, we have a lot of engagement sort of surveys that we do with them to make sure that we're able to offer the right benefits, compensation that's really market leading. And we were really proud to have been honored in the last year as Canada's top 10 employers. And we were the only food company. We were the smallest company in that top 10 list. And we were also the only independent food company at the time. So we have an organic garden on site here at Nature's Path and at all of our facilities for all of our team members, whether you're in the office or the factories. We have $500 a year that we give to all of our team members to get out and enjoy the outdoors. It's called Get Fit. And that's really a program to say, hey, no matter what you're doing, we want you to be healthy and active, because we know that there's so many issues with depression and mental health issues that getting outdoors, giving back is important. So also along those lines, we have this program. It's a volunteer program at Nature's Path. We have a volunteer committee, and they go out every 2 weeks, and they volunteer with different organizations, whether that's the food bank or shore cleanups. And we're excited about that. I think having a team that's engaged is one of our proudest accomplishments, because a lot of times people just focus on the customer, the customer, but you can do so at the expense of your own team or your suppliers. So that's an area that's really important for us. We have on-site meditation rooms at our facilities, so people can take a break and meditate if they like to. And my dad and myself, we help lead sessions here at the office, and that's been well received. So those are some of the types of things that we do. We really want to make it feel like it's an independent, family-owned company that really cares about our team members. And that's one of the biggest things that we do, in addition to little things like celebrating birthdays, and we have a social committee that gets together and has baby showers for our team members, and all sorts of fun stuff that in a larger company, if you're just like a number or a face that's walking by, you don't really have that interaction with your coworkers and your team. So that's one thing that we really try to engender as we've grown from just being a handful of 20 team members now to having 700 across multiple states and countries.
It sounds like you've created a very inclusive culture that with these cultural investments, which are voluntary, you don't have to do those. And as a company, you're making those choices, and it's kind of leading towards more personal growth and development, and which I'm sure plays over into good retention and that feeling of being part of a family business, even though you've had prodigious growth over the last few decades. There's so many other things that Nature's Path does in terms of zero waste and supporting mitigating carbon emissions through renewable energy credits, and supporting water conservation and your manufacturing and in your supply chain. So many beneficial activities that you do. I'm curious if maybe you could talk a little bit about what you see as next. I mean, you've tackled so many things. What are the things that you're excited about or frustrated about in your current operation that you're looking forward to as challenges to take on in the coming months or years?
We set a goal 4 years, actually longer than that, 8 years ago, to become zero waste in all of our facilities. And this last year, all 3 of our facilities became zero waste certified, which was an exciting development for us because we're the only cereal food company out there that's zero waste certified in all of our facilities. So looking forward, we're really excited and concerned at the same time around our climate goals and where we are moving, in terms of the U.S. and our goal is to become climate neutral across the entire company. So we're purchasing carbon offsettings, renewable energy credits, and that's one area that I think we as an organic movement, we as a society, we as global citizens need to make a big step towards fighting climate change. And that's something that's going to be a huge focus for us, working within the organic industry and within the organic food movement to really get that kicked off in a major way. This last year, we purchased another 6,000 acres of organic farmland. And growing organic food is a fantastic way to help fight climate change. With the less inputs of fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides, and the ability to use compost, and other sort of farming techniques to really manage and look after the soil, we're able to really do our step to sequester carbon in a major way. So that's one thing that we're excited about moving forward. We think that as more and more food companies get into organics, Nature's Path needs to continue to innovate and not rest on what we've done in the past, but continue pushing the industry forward, continue working together to provide leadership around these core issues. So around, as it relates to climate, it's going to be our biggest one moving forward as a food movement.
Wonderful. I appreciate that and bringing us back to the big picture. And that's going to be a challenge for all of us, no doubt, as we move into the next economy. I'm curious about some of the other independent companies that have become as significant influencers in the industry and market as Nature's Path are starting to do something that I would call maybe corporate venturing, or sometimes even developing their own investment kind of activities, either as a formal investment company or fund, or merger and acquisition type of fund. Is Nature's Path looking at some of that type of activity in terms of developing the company more? I mean, obviously there's more room to grow. You have so many SKUs, so many products, and there's so much, there's ways to grow in different verticals, I'm sure. But do you look at the world of potentially doing investments? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, because 2 years ago, Kevin, we kicked off this program called Seed to Sprout. And the vision was really to help entrepreneurs take the next step in terms of looking at their businesses and having access to growing. Because Nature's Path started with a $7 investment and a $1,500 loan. And that was my dad kind of begging and borrowing from the local branch manager to start off the first vegetarian restaurant in Western Canada in 1967. And, you know, he says at the time, he says, I learned from the school of hard knocks. I made so many mistakes in business that future entrepreneurs who are coming wouldn't have to make if they got some good advice and guidance along the way. So we're really proud to have kicked off the Seed to Sprout program. We've invested in 3 companies so far, and just trying to help these entrepreneurs take the next level with distribution, with organic sourcing, with manufacturing, so that they can be successful as we think they can. And there's so much innovation in the food sphere today. So many millennials and younger people are starting their own businesses, and it's super exciting time to be involved in the food movement, because there's so many just new and different and wacky sometimes ideas that are out there. And we're really proud to work with a number of companies. Grilly Goods out of Wisconsin is one that we've invested in. And our goal is to help them grow and take the next step for scaling up their business.
It's a really valuable service to be able to provide not only the right amounts of capital, but also support and advice and guidance. I know some of our listeners will be curious, so I might as well ask if you can share. Can you comment on what kind of range of capital there might be in terms of lending or investing into these companies? What's in terms of amounts that you would be looking at? And I'm sure there will be listeners who'd be interested to know what types of things you're looking at in terms of potentially investing. That would be, again, to the extent that you can share. I'm sure there might be specifics, but in terms of broad categories of amounts and types of things that you're looking at in the Seeds to Sprout program.
So for Seed to Sprout, we have the criteria. It has to be organic. That's one thing that we definitely believe in and we want to promote. So organic, branded. The sales could be anywhere from $1 million to $5 million revenue, and really, ideally, they'd have some sort of unique process or unique production ability in terms of their product, not just like a branded commodity, so to speak. So those are the types of areas that we've been looking in. We've been doing these programs at Expo West, Natural Products Expo West. It's held every year in Anaheim, California. And we have a number of entrepreneurs get up and pitch their concepts. So we'd love to solicit any of your listeners who are interested to apply for this program. And the prize is that we give them the space at our booth. We help arrange for some free PR from our publicity firm, Crafted Communications. And we've also been happy to make any introductions or contacts that they would find useful outside of any extra investment that Nature's Path might make into their business. So that gives kind of a nutshell of the criteria that we've looked at to date for our investments. And I tell you, one of the best things that we get out of it is this feeling of seeing these entrepreneurs who are driven, excited, passionate by nature, and see them succeed and to grow their businesses in a sustainable way. That's been our greatest joy, is to help them out with that. And at the same time, they have to make a profit eventually. So that's one area that we have a lot of experience in, because we lost money for the first couple of years of Nature's Path's existence, but through very tight operating and managing our costs, we were able to turn the business around and to make it a profitable business today.
That's yeah, it sounds like a really wonderful program and extremely beneficial for entrepreneurs who are at that right stage looking for that type of support. So I have a couple more questions for you. One is, there's a lot of talk these days in terms of the world of organic agriculture of being beyond just kind of sustainable, but becoming more regenerative. And you mentioned kind of the climate beneficial practices of soil conserving, organic production, whether it's compost applications or cover crops and so forth. But I'm wondering if you have any thoughts or opinions on the emergence of the discussion around regenerative practices. So this could be, even if it's commodity crops such as corn, it might be, planting of woody perennial windbreaks and other carbon sequestering activities, even if the farm is still producing corn, or doing no-till as a practice, as an example. I'm curious if
we'd love to see these practices become more widespread. And on our farmland in Saskatchewan, one of the farmers planted trees all around the property, which is very unique in Saskatchewan. You go and you drive through Saskatchewan, you see just flatlands or some little hills, and there's very few trees all in Saskatchewan. So, he's going to have less erosion on his property. He's going to be able to, the leaves are going to fall off the trees in the winter, and they're going to go back into the soil, and it's going to dig up some of those nutrients from deep within the earth and bring them up. So as it relates to regenerative on its own, I think you could use regenerative practices, but I think if you're using regenerative practices but then still using herbicides and pesticides and synthetic fertilizers, I don't know how regenerative that is in the big picture. It's kind of like saying something is healthier than something else. It may not be healthy, but it's healthier. So I think the more we can go down this path of regenerative agriculture, and whether you're farming conventionally or organically, steps in the right direction are still steps in the right direction. But I would say if you can be using fully regenerative practices and being organic, that'd be the gold standard, because then you're ensuring that you're using this certified program and it's not greenwashing. And that's my concern with the term regenerative on its own, is that some folks might use it in a way like how the food industry has used natural over the years. Natural doesn't stand for anything. It's whatever that company wants it to mean. And organic really stands for high levels of organic integrity and looking after the soil and biodiversity.
I appreciate that perspective, definitely. And whereas, like you said, every little step in the right direction is helpful and makes the gold standard more visible. Aiming for that gold standard is certainly what we're advocating for, and seeing a few companies step up, and especially amongst the independents, voluntarily taking that position. So I appreciate that your company is taking a leadership stance and seeing more trees on the plains, as an example. So that brings to mind a question that we've asked a lot of other business leaders in the next economy is kind of, what are you watching and excited about, maybe from other companies or maybe other thinkers or books or anything? What are some of the things that are inspiring your current thinking or your work at this moment?
I was really inspired by the OTA U.S. Families Organic Attitudes and Beliefs study. And it just shows how much a tidal wave organic is becoming, and healthier options. Just a couple of the stats I wanted to share with you and your listeners is that more than 82% of U.S. families said they bought organic sometimes over the last year, which is the highest in its 7-year history of performing the study. Millennials now are buying organic. Over 75 million millennials are buying organics. And they're changing the way that food is being bought, sold, and marketed. They want more transparency, they want higher quality, and they want delicious products. So I think I have a lot of faith and excitement in the next generation of consumers and leaders and entrepreneurs coming up who are going to make a difference for this world. One of the folks that I've been following and I was really inspired by his TED Talk was Ron Finley, the gangster gardener out of Compton. and the work that he's been doing to inspire folks to get out, to garden, to make a difference in these food deserts. And I myself, I garden and I teach gardening classes, and being able to speak so passionately about the difference that you can make and how you can give back to your community inspired me with Ron Finley. And there's lots of folks I've been inspired throughout the years. Conscious capitalism, some of the talk that's and actions that have been coming out of that group has been really exciting to see. I think we were conscious about about growing our business, but we never had that term to encapsulate everything around it. I think that's been really exciting for us. And then as I look towards the food movement itself, a lot of the studies of how we can have more access to different and novel ingredients like moringa or baobab, and how it's able to contribute back to these different communities around the world, whether that's in Africa or South America, is exciting to see. I know there's some people who would criticize that because it's taking away from the local populations, but at the same time, I think having a healthy sort of economy for these folks in the developing world is so important.
Yeah, I think highlighting that balance is important, as you've mentioned, and some of the giving programs that you've initiated with your microfinance kind of lending and support for entrepreneurs to enable local economic self-determination, and having exports of cashews or moringa or baobab and some of these ingredients that are coming from a global supply chain. I think being conscious about that and supporting good organic practices, which are good for the workers and good for the land, and then finding ways to give back, which is what Nature's Path is doing, is definitely a step forward and something that not everybody does. So I just want to highlight how inspired we all are in terms of supporting the next economy, that every little step that's distinct from the business as usual economy, which tends to exploit people and planet, is so important. And Nature's Path certainly has been a pioneer, and I can only imagine what it was like in the late 80s and early 90s to be in the organic food space as an entrepreneur, how challenging that was for your family. It's being a pioneer in that way is so. We're seeing it today with people who are doing some of the regenerative organic work at the small scale, where they're voluntarily making choices, mindful choices about their practices, just so challenging, where their work is largely invisible with so much of the noise and the typical economy. So Nature's Path has certainly carved a path forward that enables others to follow, and we're all super grateful to you. Is there anything that you want to share with us about the company that we haven't talked about yet, in terms of some of the products or in terms of what you're doing, or anything else that you'd like to say?
Oh, just one thing that came to mind as you were saying that, carving a path in the late 80s. I remember at the time we needed a loan from a bank, and one of the bankers we talked to said, we're not going to loan you the money because you're just a small guy. You are just, you guys are going to get crushed like a little bug, when you look at yourselves compared to Kellogg's and General Mills of the world. And I remember my mom and dad had a very quick answer to that. And they said, have you heard of David? Have you heard of Goliath? And in many ways, we're like this small independent food company that's obviously been doing this for over 30 years now, selling and making organic foods. And we're just so excited about, just by being focused and passionate and innovative, how we've been able to help, along with many others, create this organic food movement today, where it really is changing the world for the better. And we're humbled by that, and we're very thankful for all the folks who have joined us along the way, all the partners and collaborators. And we're not resting still. We want to keep moving that forward and take the next steps as a company for the next economy, as you've been sort of highlighting throughout the whole interview. So we're thrilled about that, and we're not going to rest on our laurels moving forward. We want to continue to innovate and continue to push our movement forward as we go into the next years of our company.
Well, again, we're super grateful for you being there and continuing to push the edge, push the envelope, and look forward to watching and supporting and cheering you on. But thank you again for making time today, Arjan. It's been very insightful and helpful to learn more about Nature's Path.
Next Economy Now is a production of Lift Economy. To listen to all of our episodes, go to lifteconomy.com/podcast. That's LIFT economy.com/podcast. You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter at lifteconomy.com/newsletter. Please also rate and review our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.